The massive ships appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning. They came without warning, their sleek metal forms blocking out the sun over major cities across Earth. The world held its breath, and for the first time in human history, every TV channel showed the same image. The arrival of the Galactic Council. Ambassador James Walker stood at the window of the United Nations building, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. At 62, he had spent his life preparing for diplomatic missions, but nothing could have prepared him for this. The alien ship hovering above New York City gleamed like polished chrome in the morning sun. "They're ready for us, sir," his assistant said from the doorway. Walker nodded, straightening his tie. "Then let's not keep our guests waiting." The meeting room was unlike anything humans had ever seen. The council had transformed the entire east wing of the UN building into a grand chamber. Floating lights danced in the air, and the walls seemed to shimmer with living metal. 5 alien representatives sat at the far end of a long table. They looked almost human, except for their height. Each was nearly 8 feet tall, and their silvery skin that seemed to reflect light like mirrors. The one in the center spoke first, its voice translated by an invisible system that made the words appear in the air. "We are the assembly of the Galactic Council," the central figure announced. "I am High Speaker Bell." The name was clearly chosen to be easy for humans to pronounce. "We have come to offer Earth a great opportunity." Walker took his seat, aware that billions were watching this broadcast. "We are honored by your presence," he said carefully. "Earth welcomes peaceful contact with other civilizations." The High Speaker's smile didn't reach their eyes. "We have been watching your species for some time. Your progress from primitive tools to basic spaceflight has been interesting. Though your methods are crude, we see potential." Walker felt a slight sting at the word crude, but kept his diplomatic smile. "We have made significant advances in recent years." Yes, another council member waved their hand dismissively. "Your combustion rockets and simple space stations. Very quaint. But now you have the chance to join civilization properly." The High Speaker placed a small device on the table. It projected a document into the air. "We offer Earth patronage status within the Galactic Council. We will guide your development, restrict your more dangerous technologies, and eventually, perhaps in a few centuries, you may earn the right to full membership." Walker read through the floating text, his heart sinking with each line. The patronage was nothing more than dressed-up slavery. Earth would have to dismantle its military, hand over control of its resources, and accept council advisors in all major governments. "This is a significant offer," Walker said carefully. "How long do we have to consider it?" 30 standard days, the High Speaker declared. "Accept and join the civilized galaxy. Refuse." They paused meaningfully. "And Earth will be marked as a restricted zone. No trade, no contact, no advancement." Walker stood up slowly, his mind racing. "We will need to discuss this with Earth's governments." "Of course," the High Speaker said smoothly. "We expected nothing less from a developing species. We will return in 30 days for your answer." As the council members filed out, Walker noticed something they had missed. A slight flicker of fear in their eyes when they passed near the human delegation's tablets and phones. Their technology, while impressive, was purely mechanical and energy-based. They had completely missed Earth's quantum computing revolution. Back in his office, Walker made 2 calls. The first was to General Stone at the Pentagon. "How much did you get?" he asked. "Everything," Stone replied. "Their ships, their weapons, their coordinates. Their security is good against energy attacks, but they never expected old-fashioned electronic warfare. They didn't even encrypt their transmissions against binary systems." Walker's second call was to the president. "Ma'am, we have 30 days, and I suggest we use every minute of them. The council thinks they're looking at a primitive species that barely reached space." The president's voice was steel. "Then we'll give them exactly what they don't expect. Humanity isn't anyone's vassal." As night fell over New York, Walker watched the council ships depart. They had no idea what they had just started. In trying to cage humanity, they had only guaranteed one thing. Earth would show them exactly how primitive it wasn't. The clock was ticking, and humanity had work to do. The underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains buzzed with activity. General Robert Stone walked through the sliding doors into what looked like a scene from a science fiction movie. Hundreds of engineers and scientists worked at stations filled with holographic displays and quantum interfaces. But unlike the Council's floating screens, these were created by human ingenuity. "Show me what we've learned," Stone commanded. Dr. Thomas Reed, the lead engineer, pulled up a 3D model of a Council ship. "They're not as advanced as they want us to believe," he said, his eyes bright with excitement. "Their entire technology is based on energy manipulation and plasma fields. They never developed silicon-based computing or quantum systems. Because they didn't need to," added Dr. Anna White, the head of AI development. She typed quickly on her neural-linked keyboard, bringing up comparison charts. They went straight from mechanical systems to energy-based computing. But that's their weakness. They have no defense against our type of technology because they never developed it. Stone watched as the facility's quantum AI system analyzed the Council's transmissions. What the aliens saw as primitive binary code was actually hiding Earth's most advanced defense system. The AI could crack their communications in seconds. "Look at this," Reed pointed to a detailed scan of a Council ship's power core. "They use plasma containment fields for everything. Weapons, shields, even their engines. But our quantum systems can predict the plasma flow patterns. We can disable their ships without firing a shot." Stone smiled for the first time in days. "They think we're cavemen playing with fire. How long until we can protect all our major cities?" 3 weeks, Reed answered. "We've already adapted our quantum shields to counter their weapons. The best part? They can't detect them because they're not looking for electromagnetic defenses. They only scan for energy barriers like their own." In another part of the facility, Ambassador Walker sat in on a briefing about Council species psychology. Dr. Lisa Moore, a xenobiologist, explained their findings. "Their entire society is built on showing off power," she said, displaying images from the Council's own databases, which they had arrogantly transmitted without encryption. "They expect us to be impressed by their floating lights and energy displays. They don't understand that we took a different path." Walker nodded. "Can we use this against them?" "Better than that," Moore replied. "We found 17 other species they're keeping as patronage races. All of them developed along similar lines to us. Digital technology, quantum computing. The Council is literally blind to our greatest strengths." The next 2 weeks were a blur of activity. Every major nation on Earth contributed their best minds to the effort. Chinese quantum computers linked with American AI systems. European plasma research combined with Indian software development. For the first time in history, the entire human race worked as one. They tested their defenses in secret. A small Council probe, thinking it was undetected, tried to scan a seemingly unprotected military base in Australia. The quantum shields allowed it to see exactly what they wanted it to see: outdated equipment and basic technology. "They're so convinced of their superiority," Stone told the World Security Council during their daily briefing. "They don't even consider that we might be hiding our real capabilities." The president spoke up from her screen. "What happens when they realize the truth?" "By then," Stone said, "it will be too late. We've already begun reaching out to the other patronage races through quantum channels the Council can't detect. Turns out we're not the only ones who are tired of their attitude." Walker, who had been quiet until now, stood up. "The Council gave us 30 days, expecting us to either submit or isolate ourselves. Instead, we've turned their greatest weapon, their arrogance, against them. When they return, Earth won't stand alone." As the meeting ended, Stone looked at the latest satellite images. Council ships still patrolled the edges of the solar system, watching for primitive rocket launches or radio signals. They had no idea that beneath the surface of their primitive discovery, humanity was preparing to rewrite the rules of the galaxy. The countdown continued, but now Earth was ready. The Council thought they were coming to cage a primitive species. Instead, they were about to learn why humanity had survived every challenge it had ever faced. They were about to learn about human ingenuity the hard way. The 30th day dawned bright and clear. Council ships appeared in formation above Earth's major cities, their massive forms casting shadows over the streets below. This time, however, the sight didn't inspire the same awe as before. Earth was ready. High speaker bell and the Council delegation materialized in the UN chamber exactly at noon. Their silvery forms seemed to glow with barely contained power, a display meant to intimidate. Ambassador Walker noticed how they swept the room with their scanners, seeing exactly what humans wanted them to see: simple electronic devices and basic computers. "The time has come," Bell announced, their voice echoing through the chamber. "What is Earth's answer to our generous offer of patronage?" Walker stood slowly, aware that this moment would be remembered for centuries to come. "Earth has made its decision," he said calmly. "We decline your offer." The Council members exchanged glances. "Perhaps," Bell said slowly, "you don't understand the consequences. No patronage means no access to advanced technology, no trade routes, no protection." "We understand perfectly," Walker replied. Behind him, screens lit up showing Council ships in orbit. "But I don't think you understand something about humans. We don't respond well to threats." Bell's expression hardened. "This is not a threat, Ambassador. This is reality. Your species is primitive. Your technology is basic. Your defenses are—" They gestured at the simple military vehicles visible through the windows. That's when Admiral Emma Thompson, who had been quietly sitting at the back of the room, stepped forward. "About those defenses," she said, pressing a button on her quantum-linked watch. "Let me show you something interesting." Suddenly, every Council scanner and communication device went dark. Their personal shields flickered and died. For the first time, fear showed clearly on their faces. "Impossible," one Council member whispered. "Your technology level is exactly what we wanted you to think it was," Thompson finished. On the screens, hundreds of previously invisible human ships shimmered into view around the Council fleet. Each one was powered by quantum drives and protected by shields that the Council's energy-based systems couldn't even detect. "While you were busy looking down on us," Walker explained, "we were studying you, your ships, your weapons, your weaknesses. Did you really think humanity survived this long by being primitive?" A small Council probe tried to fire on a human satellite. The quantum shields absorbed the energy blast completely, redirecting it harmlessly into space. The Council members watched in horror as their superior technology proved useless against Earth's defenses. "This is your first and only warning," Thompson said firmly. "Remove your ships from Earth's space immediately." "You dare?" Bell stood up, their height no longer intimidating. "The Council controls thousands of worlds. We have fleets that could burn your atmosphere away." Walker smiled. "Actually, about those other worlds." He nodded to Thompson, who pressed another button. Holographic screens appeared around the room, showing simultaneous uprisings on multiple Council worlds. Other primitive species, armed with quantum technology shared by Earth, were throwing off their Council overlords. "You see," Walker explained, "when you dismissed us as primitive, you missed something important. We developed our technology in a completely different direction than yours. And we've spent the last 30 days sharing it with every species you've tried to enslave." Bell's face had lost its silver sheen, turning almost gray. This is impossible. You were supposed to be simple, controllable." "That was your first mistake," Thompson said. "Human beings are many things, but we're never simple, and we're certainly not controllable." The Council members huddled together, their confidence shattered. Their scans showed nothing but primitive technology, yet their ships were powerless. Their energy weapons were useless. Their entire technological advantage had vanished. "You have 1 hour to leave Earth's solar system," Walker announced. After that, we'll consider any remaining Council ships as hostile forces. And trust me, you don't want to see what else we've developed in the last 30 days. As the Council members rushed to their transport beam, Bell turned back one last time. This isn't over, they threatened. Walker's response was calm but firm. You're right. This is just the beginning. Humanity is taking its place in the galaxy, not as your servants, but as equals. And if you ever threaten Earth again, we'll remind you why that's a very bad idea. The Council fleet retreated in disarray, leaving Earth's ships in formation around the planet. Humanity had passed its first galactic test, not through submission, but through intelligence, preparation, and unity. The real challenge was just beginning. 3 days after the Council's retreat, engineer Thomas Reed stood in his laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching as his team prepared for their biggest test yet. The captured Council weapon sat in the testing chamber, its sleek form a reminder of what they faced. Everyone behind the shields, Reed commanded. Let's show them what human engineering can really do. The weapon fired, its plasma beam striking a new type of defensive barrier. Instead of deflecting or absorbing the energy like their previous shields, this one did something impossible. It caught the plasma, transformed it, and sent it back as pure power. It works, Reed's assistant shouted, checking the readings. Energy conversion rate at 95%. Reed allowed himself a small smile. The Council had spent thousands of years perfecting their energy weapons, never imagining that someone would find a way to turn them into power sources. But they had never met human engineers before. Admiral Thompson arrived just as they were finishing the tests. Please tell me you have good news, she said. Our scouts report the Council is gathering a massive fleet. They're not taking their humiliation well. Reed led her to the central display. Better than good news, he said. We've cracked their entire weapons system. Every shot they fire at us will only make us stronger. The display showed simulation after simulation. Council ships firing their most powerful weapons, only to have their energy absorbed, converted, and used to power Earth's defenses. It was like trying to put out a fire by throwing fuel on it. How soon can we upgrade our fleet? Thompson asked. That's the best part, Reed replied. The quantum nature of the technology means we can update every ship simultaneously through our AI network. The Council doesn't even know this kind of technology exists. In orbit, the first human ships were already receiving the upgrade. Their hulls shimmered with new energy patterns that the Council's scanners couldn't even detect. Earth was turning its greatest weakness, its primitive technology, into its greatest strength. Meanwhile, in Washington, General Stone was briefing world leaders on the latest developments. The Council's entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming force, he explained. They've never encountered an enemy who could turn their attacks back against them. The Chinese premier spoke up from her screen. And you're certain this technology can be shared with our allies among the other species? Stone nodded. We've already transmitted the quantum specifications to 17 former patronage worlds. The Council is about to face a galaxy-wide revolution in warfare. Back in the laboratory, Reed and his team worked tirelessly to perfect their invention. They called it the Mirror Shield, a system that could capture energy attacks and reflect them back in any form they chose. Look at these readings, Reed told Thompson, pointing to a data stream. The Council's weapons are actually incredibly inefficient. They waste almost 60% of their energy just making their attacks look impressive. We can use that wasted energy to power our own systems. Thompson watched as another test resulted in perfect energy conversion. They spent so long trying to intimidate everyone with flashy technology, they forgot the basic principles of engineering. Exactly, Reed agreed. While they were building bigger and more impressive weapons, we were learning how to do more with less. Now we can turn their own power against them. The quantum AI system chimed in with an update. Council ships have been detected approaching the solar system, more than 1,000 of them. They were clearly preparing for a show of force. They still think they can overwhelm us. Thompson said, studying the tactical display. They haven't learned anything from their first defeat. Reed checked the final calculations one more time. Then I guess we'll have to teach them again. Every ship in that fleet is just bringing us more power to use against them. As Earth's defenses prepared for the coming battle, Reed couldn't help but feel a bit of pride. The Council had dismissed humans as primitive because they didn't use energy weapons or flashy technology. They were about to learn that true advancement wasn't about having the biggest weapons. It was about having the smartest solutions. The Council was coming to teach Earth a lesson. Instead, humanity was about to give the galaxy a masterclass in innovation. The engineering miracle was ready for its greatest test. The massive Council fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, their ships stretching out like a metallic cloud against the stars. But this time, Earth wasn't waiting to be attacked. Operation Thunderbolt was already in motion. Admiral Thompson stood on the bridge of the ESS Defender, Earth's newest flagship. Unlike the flashy Council vessels, human ships were sleek and practical, their quantum shields invisible to enemy scanners. "All ships report ready," her tactical officer announced. "Mirror shield systems at full power." Thompson nodded. "Send the message." Across the galaxy, 17 different species received Earth's quantum transmission. Former patronage races, armed with human technology, waited for the signal. The Council was about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating primitive species. The Council fleet's commander, High Admiral Vex, transmitted his ultimatum. His hologram appeared on the Defender's bridge, still trying to look impressive despite their previous defeat. "Surrender now," he demanded, "or face the full might of the Council's armada." Thompson smiled. "I was about to suggest the same thing to you." She pressed a button on her command chair. Now. Suddenly, quantum drives activated across the solar system. Hundreds of human ships appeared behind the Council fleet, cutting off their retreat. At the same time, reports flooded in from across Council space. Simultaneous uprisings on every patronage world. "Impossible," Vex shouted. "Your ships can't have quantum technology. You're primitives." "That's your problem," Thompson replied calmly. "You see what you expect to see. Fire when ready." The Council fleet launched their attack, energy weapons blazing. But instead of destruction, they watched in horror as their weapons fire was absorbed by invisible shields, feeding power to the human fleet. "Mirror shields at 200% capacity," the tactical officer reported. "Their attacks are giving us more power than we can use." Thompson leaned forward. "Then let's put that power to good use. All ships, execute Operation Thunderbolt." Human vessels moved with precision that shocked the Council commanders. While their ships relied on brute force and flashy displays, Earth's fleet fought with efficiency and coordination. The mirror shields redirected captured energy, turning the Council's own power against them. "Status report," Thompson demanded as the battle raged. "Council fleet is in disarray," her officer replied. "Their weapons are useless against us, and our quantum communications are coordinating attacks across their entire territory. Reports coming in from all 17 liberation forces. The Council is losing control of their patronage worlds." On the main screen, Council ships began to retreat in panic. Their mighty armada, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, was being dismantled by the very species they had dismissed as primitive. Ambassador Walker's voice came through on the quantum comm. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender messages from 3 Council worlds. They're asking for protection from Earth against their own government." "Send them our terms," Thompson ordered. "Any world that rejects Council control will be welcomed into the new alliance. All species deserve the right to develop in their own way." The battle lasted less than an hour. The Council fleet, unable to harm Earth's ships and watching their empire crumble, finally surrendered. High Admiral Vex's last transmission was filled with disbelief. "How?" he asked. "How did primitives defeat us?" Thompson's response was firm. "We're not primitives. We're humans, and we didn't just defeat you. We outsmarted you." Remember that the next time you try to judge a species by your standards. As the Council ships retreated under guard, reports continued to pour in. The coordinated uprising had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. The Council's grip on power was broken, shattered by the very technology they had dismissed. "Send word to all allied worlds," Thompson commanded. "Operation Thunderbolt is a success. The galaxy is free." Earth's fleet maintained formation, their quantum shields humming with converted energy from the battle. They had not just won a fight. They had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The Council had wanted to teach humanity its place in the galactic order. Instead, humanity had taught the galaxy a lesson about the danger of underestimating those you consider beneath you. The age of Council dominance was over. The era of human innovation had begun. 1 month after Operation Thunderbolt, the Grand Meeting Hall on Earth's new space station, Unity, hosted representatives from 20 different species. The station, built with a combination of human quantum technology and adapted Council systems, floated at the L1 point between Earth and the Moon. Ambassador Maria Davis, who had replaced the retiring James Walker, looked out at the assembled delegates. Each species had thrown off Council control, and now they were here to build something new. "The Free Species Coalition," she announced, her voice carrying across the hall, "begins today." The station's quantum translators allowed perfect communication between all species. Unlike the Council's energy-based systems, these translators could handle multiple languages simultaneously, letting everyone speak freely. "For too long," Davis continued, "the Council told us what civilization should look like. They measured every species by their standards. Today we prove there are many paths to advancement." The delegate from Centauri Prime, a world that had suffered under Council rule for 3 centuries, stood up. His people looked almost human, except for their golden skin and 4 arms. "Earth showed us that different does not mean primitive," he said. "The Council laughed at your silicon chips and quantum computers. Now their energy-based empire has fallen to the very technology they mocked." Reports streamed in on the massive display screens. More Council worlds were declaring independence every day. The old order was crumbling faster than anyone had expected. In the station's command center, General Stone watched the tactical displays with Admiral Thompson. "Another Council fleet just surrendered in the Orient sector," he reported. "They're requesting to join the coalition." Thompson nodded. "And their weapons?" "Being converted to power generators using the mirror shield technology. Engineer Reed's team is teaching other species how to adapt their technology. Soon, the Council's weapons won't be weapons at all, just clean power sources." Back in the meeting hall, Davis was outlining the coalition's principles. "Every species develops differently," she explained. "Some focus on energy manipulation, like the Council. Others develop biological technology or quantum systems. Under the coalition, all paths are valid. We learn from each other instead of forcing one way of life." The delegates approved each point with enthusiasm. After centuries of Council suppression, the idea of free development was revolutionary. A small, insect-like being from the Proxima system raised its antenna. "But how do we defend against the Council loyalists who still remain?" Davis smiled. "Earth's quantum shield technology has been shared with all coalition members. More importantly, we've developed an early warning system. If any coalition world is threatened, we can respond instantly through quantum networks." The meeting continued as more details were worked out. Trade routes were established using a combination of human FTL drives and adapted Council technology. Cultural exchange programs were planned. Scientific cooperation was organized. In Earth's quantum labs, Reed was working with scientists from a dozen worlds. "Look at this," he said, showing them a new design. "By combining your crystal technology with our quantum systems, we can create shields that don't just defend. They can heal damaged ecosystems." The other scientists gathered around, adding their own ideas. This was what the coalition was about: different species working together, each contributing their unique perspectives. As the day ended, Davis stood at the station's observation window with Thompson and Stone. Earth glowed below them, while ships from 20 different species moved through space around them. The Council thought they were building an empire, Davis said. Instead, they were just bringing together the species that would replace them. And the best part, Thompson added, we don't need to control anyone. Every species is free to develop in their own way. True strength comes from diversity, not conformity. Stone checked his quantum pad. 3 more Council worlds just requested coalition membership. They're tired of being told there's only one right way to advance. The station's quantum shields shimmered invisibly, powered by converted Council weapons. Ships from all coalition species docked and departed, sharing technology and ideas freely. The Council had tried to force the galaxy into one mold. Humanity had shown there was another way, a path of cooperation, innovation, and respect for different approaches to progress. The Free Species Coalition was more than an alliance. It was a promise that no species would ever again be called primitive for being different. The future had arrived, and it was far better than anyone had imagined. 1 year after the formation of the Free Species Coalition, the Grand Council chamber on their former capital world looked very different. Where once only the tall, silver-skinned council members had sat, now representatives from 30 different species filled the room. At the center of it all stood Ambassador Maria Davis, Earth's representative, preparing to sign the new Galactic Constitution. The former High Speaker Bell, now just one delegate among many, watched with barely hidden amazement as humans and other primitive species moved confidently through the chamber. The Council's energy-based displays had been replaced by quantum interfaces that everyone could use, regardless of their technological background. Let the record show, Davis announced, her voice carried perfectly by the quantum translators, that today marks the official end of the Council era and the beginning of the United Galactic Alliance. The massive chamber, once designed to intimidate lesser species, now hosted the greatest gathering of diverse civilizations in known space. Engineer Reed, standing near the back, pointed out the technical changes to Admiral Thompson. "See those power conduits," he said. "They're running on converted Council weapons. Their whole city now gets clean energy from the technology they once used to threaten others." Thompson nodded appreciatively. "And our quantum shields, protecting every member world," Reed confirmed. "But the best part is how different species have improved the design. The Centauri added their crystal technology. The Proxima beings integrated their biological computers. It's better than anything we could have created alone." General Stone, now the Coalition's defense coordinator, pulled up a tactical display on his quantum pad. Another former Council world just voted to join the Alliance. That makes 32 member species, with 15 more applications pending. The signing ceremony began. Each species used their own traditional methods. Some used digital signatures, others energy patterns, some even biological markers. The quantum systems accepted them all equally. Davis's speech echoed through the chamber. "1 year ago, the Council thought they were coming to Earth to grant us the privilege of being their servants. They never imagined they were actually witnessing the beginning of true galactic civilization." She gestured to the massive windows showing the city beyond. Council ships, once meant to inspire fear, now served as public transportation, their weapons converted to power the city's infrastructure. In orbit, vessels of all shapes and sizes moved peacefully, each designed according to their species' unique approach to technology. The Council's greatest mistake, Davis continued, wasn't underestimating Earth's technology. It was believing that there was only one path to advancement. They looked at our quantum computers and saw primitive binary code. They saw our silicon chips and thought we were stuck in the Stone Age. She turned to address the former Council members directly. "But true civilization isn't about having the most impressive technology. It's about using what you have to improve life for everyone. It's about respecting different paths of development and learning from each other." The former High Speaker Bell stood slowly. "I was wrong," they admitted. their voice carrying across the chamber. We thought we were bringing order to the galaxy. Instead, we were stopping its natural development. Today, I formally apologize to all species we labeled as primitive." A cheer went up from the assembled delegates. The quantum barriers that once divided the chamber into superior and inferior sections had been removed. Every species sat as equals. As the ceremony concluded, Davis met with Thompson, Stone, and Reed in the former council's private chamber, now a public meeting room. "Hard to believe it's only been a year," Thompson said, looking out at the city. "The galaxy was ready for change," Stone replied. "The council just couldn't see it." Reed checked his quantum readings one last time. "Their weapons are all nearly converted now. The last vestiges of their military superiority are becoming the foundation of a new energy network for everyone." Davis smiled. "They wanted to teach humanity its place in the galaxy," she said. "And they did, just not the place they expected." The sun set over the former council capital, its light reflecting off buildings now powered by converted weapons. Quantum shields protected the city invisibly, while ships of all species moved peacefully through the skies. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as servants, not as rulers, but as equals among the stars. The council's age of dominance was over. The age of unity had begun.